Holla ballers, what's going on? It's Preacher, and I am glad to bring to you the Assassination Rogue, patch 5.4, the last of the expansion. Looking at the paradigm shift, the huge paradigm shift that we've seen from rogues over the course of Mr. Pandaria, from being one of those classes that you kind of brought to raids just so they could glue their ass to the boss and do damage, and that wasn't it, to now being like the Swiss Army knives of multiple utility, multiple ways the rogue can actually change the entire swing of an encounter, and raids stacking them in all sorts of crazy ways in order to get the best out of that utility. Very interesting switch that we've seen from the rogues, and they're paying off. They've been one of the only melee classes that have actually stuck around through every tier of raiding in Mists of Pandaria. I'm going to show you why. We're going to look at Assassination first. We're going to talk about your talents, your gem, and your glyphs, and then most importantly, how to play it. I will say that Assassination is one of those specs that's very easy to kind of get good at very quickly. There's not a lot to it, but in order to be a very successful and to be one of the better Assassination rogues, and certainly to outdo your counterparts, what you're going to have to learn is the little tips and tricks that just push you ahead by 1 or 2 spells, by 3 or 4 attacks, by 1 or 2 extra cooldowns. Then you're going to start to see yourself really shine in comparison to the other guys who are following the absolute basics, alright? So there's a lot going on in the background of the Assassination Rogue, lots of interactions that we need to discuss. Let's get through the usual stuff straight off the bat. Again, with talents, it comes down to choice, really. Shadow Focus is generally the go-to, 75% less ninja while stealth. The advantage to DPS, of course, is that you can use your Vanish as a DPS cooldown, because that's going to give you an extra Dispatch, it's going to give you an extra Mutilate, and you're going to be using Vanish essentially on cooldown while under the effects of other DPS increasing cooldowns, and that's going to allow you just to get that free extra attack in, those few extra combo points, again, looking at sneaky little ways of just pushing out that little bit more DPS rather than following the basics. Level 30, Combat Readiness is generally the go-to. I mean, any of these have got some kind of use sometimes, right? Nerve Strike kind of has its use. Deadly Throw, not so much, but, you know, it's a defensive cooldown. I always like to take a defensive cooldown, but unfortunately in a raid situation, if you are being attacked by the boss, you probably go and get fucked. So that's something to bear in mind. Leeching Poison, I actually still like this. A lot of people also roll with Cheat Death. Cheat Death allows you to bypass a lot of stuff in fights, okay? So when you're doing some heavy raiding, there are going to be those fights where you're going to take Cheat Death because your utility, again, is all about surviving that ability so the rest of the raid doesn't have to deal with it. And that's, again, how the rogues come into play. But for your general DPS, I really love Leeching Poison. Just that constant healing. I like to think of the actual Dark Shamans, or Dark Shamans, if you want to call them, in Siege of Orgrimmar, where Leeching Poison over the course of the fight is just doing outrageous amounts of healing on you, just all the damn time, because your health is never at 100%. Your healers are already stressed. Leeching Poison comes out really nicely there. But again, bear in mind how Cheat Death can, in fact, just totally allow you to abuse mechanics so the rest of the raid doesn't have to. Shadow Step is also generally the go-to. This is so ridiculously useful. The biggest DPS downtime, the thing that costs rogues a lot of damage, is the fact that they are not in melee range. It's a total nightmare that a lot of classes have to deal with, especially the melee, is when you want to DPS something you're not in range to actually stab it with, right? Shadow Step makes up for a lot of that. It's such a short cooldown, that 20 seconds, and allows you to just zip around the map. You can also, and a lot of people forget this, you can actually use this on friendly targets. A lot of people forget that. I use it to dive across rooms. If the mob might be way the fuck over there and I'm way the fuck over here, there's no reason I can't Shadow Step this chappy here and then take advantage of that 70% movement speed that comes afterwards, alright? Just bear in mind you can use that on friendly targets. A lot of people just use it on bosses. Don't be that guy. Again, the little tips and tricks that are going to allow you to become a really good Assassination Rogue. Level 75, it doesn't really matter. I've found very little use for either of these in any and all situations, right? I actually found the only use really for dirty tricks, and this is no joke. Your Gouge and Blind no longer have an energy cost and no longer break from damage dealt by your poison and bleed effects. I literally use that on the Iron Stormers during the general Nazgrim encounters, just to the Iron Blade Spinners, whatever they are, who do that Blade Storm business, is just to gouge them every now and again when my stun wears off and whatnot. It's just nice, and that's about it. That is really about it. So, and then you can also mix in, the gouge and cheap shot effects is also good on them if you're going to be kidney shotting them. It depends on how your raid is dealing with those situations. Just, again, encounter by encounter basis. At level 90... it's hard to argue with anticipation. Shuriken Toss is just out of the window. There's no raid encounter currently in the game that requires Shuriken Toss. Mark for Death does have its place. It's pretty damn good on occasions, especially if you're dealing with a lot of ads and you're moving around a lot. You can actually get some good use out of Mark for Death. But if you're doing as a rogue should be and gluing yourself to the arse of some mob, then anticipation is the way you want to rock and roll. Whoa, my glyph window's all fucked up. Nice. I love it when that happens. The only mandatory glyph, really, is the Glyph of Vendetta. Why is that so weird? Okay, the Glyph of Vendetta is a straight-up DPS increase, alright? Yeah, I can do it here. Reduce the damage bonus by 5%, but increase its duration by 10 seconds. This allows you to actually, if I can stick it on a mob here, it gives you the full 30 seconds, which lines up really nicely with Bloodlust and whatnot. So you actually get some really good use out of Vendetta. You can also get 2 Ruptures and stuff going. It's really nice. Kind of the mandatory glyph. You're going to see a nice DPS increase from that. This, I also feel, is mandatory. Because one of the big things we're going to be doing when we get into the gameplay style is actually putting Ruptures on multiple targets to take advantage of Venomous Wounds. This really short cooldown redirect, 10 seconds, I have found no end of uses for that. If you're any boss that it requires you to just switch to another target, or you're keeping multiple Ruptures on a couple of targets. Again, thinking about the Dark Shamans, where you're attacking 2 mobs, they might be next to each other, and you just want to stick a Rupture on the other target, then redirecting it over on demand is really fantastic. I also take full advantage of the Glyph of Sprint. Increase that movement speed of your sprint ability by an additional 30%. I always preach this in every single one of my rogue guides. Sprint is a DPS cooldown. Being out of range of a mob is just no DPS at all, and therefore you want that in your life. I also like things like Glyph of Recuperate. I found several uses of Recuperate in the kind of content I've been doing. Glyph of Feint, I don't recommend it, but I want to give it a shout because Feint is that one of those spells that defines the class of a rogue, okay? Feint is just ridiculously powerful. We just pop it right there. You can see damage reduction by 50%. If you're not the best, if you're not absolutely the best at dealing with placing your cooldown to make sure it interacts properly with the spell you're trying to block, then that can come in handy, so you are taking full advantage of that. And also your exposed armor. For those 10-man raids who aren't getting that armor debuff for whatever reason, you will be using exposed armor. Worth knowing about that at all, okay? So all good stuff there. Really good stuff. Let's talk about your gearing. The one thing that really struggles and actually bothers me a little bit about the Assassination Rogue is the complete and full and undeniable effectiveness of poisons. This means that the Assassination Rogue does suffer long-term from not seeing great gains in terms of gameplay as your gear level increases, okay? I had the opportunity to play on a very heroic geared rogue recently, and yeah, the gameplay wasn't that different. It was a little bit more haste, I got a little bit more energy and whatnot, but not enough to really say, wow, I can see the difference. Because you are going for pure mastery. You're going to hit your hit and expertise caps as soon as humanly possible. Want to get your hit and expertise caps so your abilities don't miss. And you're obviously attacking from behind. After that, it's just mastery, mastery, mastery. You're going to be sticking mastery gems in there. If you've got some bonuses worth picking up and you've got some odd-looking gems, Agi mastery is nice. You can go for raw agility. It's kind of as powerful, almost. But if you are looking at them blue sockets and you do want to pick up the bonus, it's going to be the hit mastery. But other than that, you're just going mastery, mastery, mastery. We're getting as much poison damage out because that is literally the source of all your damage. You'll see your poisons doing sort of 30, 40, 50, 60% more damage than any other attack you did throughout the entire fight. Is all going to be sort of deadly poison ticks, alright guys? As such, ensure that your deadly poison is on. It's very important, and if you have taken leeching poison, go ahead and slap that on your weapon. Well, it's actually a buff now, isn't it? We don't put it on our weapons. Make sure they're on. It's kind of a big deal. It really is kind of a big deal. Do you know that when you're picking trinkets, I've seen a lot of people rolling with whatever trinket they could pick up. Do bear in mind that some of them proc things like haste and whatnot. If you can get things that proc other things like agility, and like these are both 2 agility trinkets, they are going to pay off better for you than actually having the haste, alright? So let's get into the gameplay style of things. Very, very simple, but there's some things that you really need to know about in order to understand why we're making certain decisions, okay? Again, this is about deciding the better rogue, okay? When it comes into picking out who is the better rogue, you really need to do that. So first of all is your blind side. Performing a successful mutilate has a 30% chance of leaving you in an advantageous position, enabling a single use of dispatch. Now, most people who play this is the proc here. That means my dispatch is lit up and I can fire off this dispatch, which obviously hits really hard. What you need to bear in mind is that Assassination is a slow, steady, methodical type of play. It is not spam, 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 spam. Your energy is actually counterintuitive to get a lot of haste on this, and this is why we don't do it, is because we actually take our time. We take our time very, very nicely with this spec for reasons like blindside, where we're actually got to make sure, if I just stick a rupture on there, what we're actually making sure of is that we press our mutilate in a way, so our mutilate is our main combo point builder, in a way just to ensure that we're not running into this scenario where our dispatch is procced and we're not taking advantage of it before we press our next mutilate, because we risk losing a proc. 30% is actually a really good chance. So it's something to bear in mind in all occasions, is that when you press your mutilate, it's slow and steady. It's not spam, 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 press mutilate, press mutilate. It's not like that. It's a very slow, your energy actually regens at a reasonable rate, okay? It's a nice slow rate, and you can take your time with it, and you can make decisions, okay? Try and get into the habit of really slowing down with this, and just letting things happen. And we're going to explain that a little bit more later. So bear in mind your blind side. Also, cut to the chase. This is most people will know about this. Is when you cast your Envenom, your slice and dice duration is refreshed to its 5 combo point max. Very important in the pull, but during the fight, your slice and dice should never fall off because you have so much opportunity to press an Envenom that, quite frankly, if you let your slice and dice fall off, you did goof up something fucking shocking somewhere. All right, you really fucked up somewhere. This is the important one. When we talk about things, when we get into this about how many combo points you use spells with, I'm going to be saying things like you use it with 4 or 5. Now, the reason for this is actually because of Relentless Strikes. Your finishing moves have a 20% chance per combo point to restore 25 energy. The more combo points that we have in our finishers, the bigger chance we have of proccing Relentless Strikes, therefore getting more energy, and therefore having more combo points to do more spells throughout the duration of a fight. Again, these little things that are really going to start to separate you from other rogues. So what you'll actually see me doing is saying things like use Rupture with 4 or 5 combo points. Now that's not because of the damage of the Rupture, because Rupture's damage is fucking abysmal. What we actually want it to do, see 4k, wow, big fucking deal. What we actually want is this 20k odd Venomous Wounds, okay? And we also want to proc Relentless Strike. So the damage we want from Rupture is not based on Rupture itself, it's purely based on it proccing Venomous Wounds. So I don't care about the Rupture's duration and the damage multiplier it gets, because I just want the Rupture on in order to proc Venomous Wounds, which is this here. This also has a chance to restore energy. When I say I want to use things like 4 or 5 combo points, that's to have a much higher chance of proccing Relentless Strikes. As such, I'm gaining much more energy over the course of a fight. 25 energy on a regular basis is a big fucking deal, guys. A big fucking deal, because you're going to use a lot of finishers. So when it comes to single target, let's do your opener first. You're obviously going to start in stealth. Now remember, we now get the benefit of that shadow focus. Our opening attack is going to be pretty simple. Let me start here where we've got 0 combo points. We're going to start off with a Mutilate. And we want our Rupture ticking ASA fucking P, okay? More important than Slice and Dice. So I'm going to do this slowly, and then you guys can obviously do it at a much quicker pace. We're going to go Mutilate, Rupture. If we procced it, proper Dispatch, Slice and Dice, Mutilate, Mutilate, 5 combo points, then we Envenom. Now what we have is the full duration Slice and Dice, although our original one was done with only 1 combo point. And then we're working up towards refreshing that Rupture with 4 or 5 combo points. Very, very simple, guys. Super simple, in fact. I'll do it again for you now. Pick this target. So we'll go Mutilate, Rupture, Dispatch, Slice and Dice, get the 5 combo points because we're now looking for those Restless Energy procs. Then we're going to use the Envenom, and then we're going to work up very quickly to get our Rupture, okay? So 4 combo points, not too bad. And now we're in full swing. That's it. Really easy. So while we're in the middle of DPS, obviously propping your DPS cooldowns as you would normally do, this is where we slow it the hell down. We've got 5 combo points, and remember, we've got Anticipation. Our main goal is not to let Rupture fall off. Okay, we don't want to let Rupture fall off, so what we do is we use our Anticipation to ensure that that never happens, because we can actually DPS and use Mutilate and Dispatch or whatever in between these. Our other aspect of this that makes it to the more advanced level is this Envenom buff, where we're doing a ton more damage with our poisons. Is we want to make sure that we're not overwriting Envenom, okay? It has a duration, you can see I'm tracking it there. So when I have the opportunity to use multiple Envenoms, okay, we're going to try and get there now. Let me build up some energy, and we'll go. If I can get it, use a Vanish. There we go. So I've got 5 combo points, but I'm waiting. Then I'm going to use the Envenom as it runs out. What we then get is a much higher uptime on our Envenom, okay? We get a huge uptime on our Envenom. We're not letting Rupture fall off. And we're just tracking these things. Remember, it's nice to track your Anticipation in some way, so you can make decisions like this. Keep your Rupture on. If you're in any doubt as whether or not you could slip in another Envenom before Rupture wears off, then just wait. Again, this is not a rushy spec. We don't do that. Our energy regains very slowly. Very, very slowly. We have all the time in the world. And we have Anticipation in order to ensure that we're not making those kinds of mistakes. So I got 5 on 5, so I'm more than happy that I can keep Rupture and Envenom going. More than happy to do that. I've got 5 combo points. Yeah, my Rupture's not going to run out. I'm going to use Envenom or whatever. And it's a slow, steady, okay? Not spammy. We're watching for Dispatch procs. We don't have much to do here. Our main goal is to keep Rupture online. As long as we're doing that and not overwriting our Envenom buffs, we're fine. Don't waste combo points. Don't cap out energy. Real easy stuff. So in this situation, I'm not convinced I'm going to hit that next 5 combo points, so I'm just chilling. There goes my Rupture. And there goes the Envenom. No energy wasted, no combo points wasted. Very, very easy, guys, okay? And again, that's what's separating you out, the men from the fucking boys. Now, when it comes to the advanced stuff, very, very easy. We have our tools to get back to the targets. Make sure you are glued to your target. You have abilities like Shadow Step. So if you have to run away, make sure you're Shadow Stepping back. Take advantage of these abilities. Okay? Take full advantage. Keep an eye on your anticipation. Have some way of tracking it, like I've got on my Tell Me When there. I've got 4 combo points. Waiting. Don't want to waste any. Back to 2. Another dispatch. Even if you're in a scenario where you've got 5 on 5, just wait. You're in no rush. Nothing is going to happen. Obviously, if you're going to overwrite both of them, then sure, don't cap your energy. That's terrible. Take it nice and steady, guys. Nice and steady. And again, bear in mind things like Vanish. Wonderful DPS cooldown. It's basically a free attack. Always good to take full advantage of that. Make sure you have got the energy. Don't do it when you're at 0 energy, because you might have to delay a couple of auto attacks. Again, those are all chances to proc poisons and whatnot. Don't want to do that. When it comes to AoE, couple of schools of thought here, guys, depending on how many mobs you've got. I'm going to be completely honest with you. A lot of the Assassination rogues, especially when they get higher up in the game, really do not follow these rules. But I'll tell you what, the way you're supposed to do damage is to put as many ruptures on targets as possible. So you're going to be using 4 or 5 combo points, Rupture on that target, and then splitting off. Remember, if you overcap your combo points to the point where you've got anticipation, redirect on that short cooldown is there for you. And you're just going to be putting these on, okay? Now, as you can obviously see, this is actually a kind of a pain in the ass. It really is. Once you get more than 4 targets, it's really a fucking pain in the ass. But this is what you're after, is these huge fucking Venomous Wound ticks. Not the Rupture damage, it ticks for nothing. It's the big ass fucking Venomous Wound ticks. Once you get to 4 or 5 targets, I've very rarely seen any rogue who doesn't just spam Fan of Knives. And then on occasion, they'll either throw a Rupture on, change target, and continue to Fan of Knives. They'll just use those 5 combo points that they generated in order to quite simply just keep spamming Fan of Knives. And it's really as simple as that. It is so simple. Really is. If you want to keep up your slice and dice, you can do. Just throw in a cheeky 1 point in Venom. Remember, that's going to refresh your slice and dice up to 35 seconds. But unless you're doing some sort of mega DPS run, most rogues that I see will just run into the fucking mobs. And they'll just Fan of Knives, Fan of Knives, Fan of Knives, Rupture. I'll move to another target. Fan of Knives, Fan of Knives, Fan of Knives. You can be very methodical about it if you wish. It's just a giant pain in the ass. So I'm just going to tell you how you do your max DPS, and whether or not you decide to follow it is entirely on you. Right, I'm going to jump into some gameplay now, guys. I'm going to talk you through how we should put all this into practice, such as our Smoke Bomb and our wonderful Shadow Step and our Sprint and our Vanish attacks and all that kind of stuff. But thanks for sticking with me, and preach. Take it easy, ballers. Bye.